Hey everyone, glad you found the show. My name is Tyler Kluver, and this is the Tyler Kluver Podcast, or the TK Pod for short. This is just a relaxed, informal, no expectation way for me to create content based on my thoughts around health and fitness, maybe occasionally business or personal development, as well as document my personal competitive fitness career. Very self-centered. Putting that out there up front. I hope I can entertain for 15 to 30 minutes a week and maybe provide the occasional nugget of knowledge or advice to help somebody out with their own life. Again, I'm just glad you're here. I welcome any feedback to make this show better. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Let's have ourselves a day. There we go. New intro. Gotta raise up the volume a little bit there for the YouTube. It'll be turned up for the audio listeners, and that's 99% of you. So welcome in to edition 2 of the TK Pod. It's like episode 190 something of this podcast, just the rebrand. Episode 2. I feel better with the TK Pod. You got to hear the intro if you're watching the YouTube. The new intro is something I like. I didn't mess up, but about the first 4, every intro I recorded, I started to get very sick of, like 3 or 4 episodes into introducing it. I think the new one is one that'll stick for at least a little bit longer. It could just be a time decay thing where your exposure to it makes it more and more not that cool. But today we are going to slide this podcast into a slot right before I record another podcast. Day of podcasting today. We have 3 that we'll do in total. We had 4. I had a guest back out. We'll do another podcast tomorrow. Life of podcasting. That's what it is around here. Couple things to talk about today. As far as, and we'll get the overlay for the YouTube eventually next week. I'll do it. I thought about doing it right before this. Too lazy. Said no. Okay, so a couple topics. Fastly approaching, very fast. In fact, as you hear this on Wednesday the 15th, the following Thursday, fly out for Miami, Florida, and Wadapalooza. It's been a very exciting 2 weeks. I think they started releasing workouts 2 weeks ago. Kind of feels like most of them have all come out in the last week. Let's call it the last 10 days, basically. All 6 workouts now announced for the teams. I think all of them are announced for the individuals as well. So if you're interested in the workouts that I will be tested on along with my 2 teammates, you could go to Wadapalooza.com and click on the compete tab, the workout tab under that. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're in not the pro division, but the RX division. We are just barely in that division. So out of 40 teams in that division, we're likely expected, or if you were going to somehow project where we would finish, we would be projected probably in the bottom 5 or the bottom 10 of the 40. So the goal is to not finish in the bottom 10. The goal is to finish somewhere in the middle or maybe on the upper half of that division. As far as the workouts go, and maybe this is just a team workout thing where you get 3-man workouts and my brain is seeing them differently because usually it's I have to do all the work or it's just me and a partner. We have to split that work evenly. I like the workouts for our team. Generally, our team is going to be, I think, probably a little bigger than most teams. I'm the smallest guy on our team. And I'm going to be sitting there at 5'10", right at 200 pounds. We'll talk about my weight. Yawning all over this podcast, so this is just disgusting, by the way. We'll talk about my weight as another topic on the back end of this show because we have been manipulating it. We've been focused and dialed in on specifically what I'm coming in on the scale each week for a reason. And there is a goal there. But we'll get to that in a second. I will come in around 5'10", 200 pounds. Isaac, I think, is maybe 5'10" or 5'11", 215, maybe even more than that. Maybe I think 215 is for sure. And then our third partner, his name is Reggie. He's probably 6'1" or 6'2", 220 or 225 pounds. That's not huge. If you're like a football or a basketball fan, and you're like, well, usually those athletes are like in the 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", like could be upwards of 300 pounds. Now in CrossFit, your average athlete, it's definitely gotten bigger over the years, over the last decade. Your average athlete is probably going to be 5'9" or 5'10" on the male side, somewhere around 190 pounds, maybe pushing 200. So all of us are above that average. And when it comes to a team competition, that means that there are probably some good things that come out of the proverbial hopper for us. And there are some not so good things that come out. And man, realistically, I would say like 80 or 90% of the features of these workouts, the movements, the rep volumes, the combinations, they really do seem to play in our favor. Um, the lifting workout could be a little bit more dialed for us. Like there is one workout specifically that is lifting focused. It's just straight up overhead squats, and I think it could be heavier for us, or it could have been some different kind of lift, and I think we would have done even better relative to the field. But I feel good about the lifting workout. There are two of the remaining five workouts that have machines in them. Great for big guys. If you know anything about functional fitness, competitions, high rocks, CrossFit type stuff, machines are good for big guys. Rowing, the runner, there's running in this competition, but it's on a runner, which is there's a way you can manipulate that for it to be better for big guys rather than just running being usually better for smaller guys. Um, and then the other workout has echo bike in it. All three of us, big, good at echo bike. So like we like those two workouts. Uh, a couple other workouts have another yawn. The worm implement, which is basically like one long skinny sandbag that three people have to handle at a time. And as long as we can figure that out, we got a little team practice. Well, actually, as you hear this, we had a little team practice this morning, Wednesday morning. If we figure that out, as far as clean and jerking that, thrustering, lunging with it, feel pretty good about that. Again, another weight lifting implement. Um, there's a sled drag. Like the workouts are really, really good. I've put in lots of time. I mean, through the holidays, it was tough. We probably didn't put in quite as much time as we would have liked, but you make the audible. You work with what you have time wise each day, and maybe you ramp up the intensity. I think that's one hack to my competitive fitness right now, or could even just be used for any normal person. That if you don't have the amount of time you would like, then whatever you do in the shorter time frame you have to dedicate to exercise that day, ramp up the intensity, ramp up the quality of what you can get out of 20 minutes versus what you could have gotten out of 45. Right. And so and that's hard to do sometimes because intensity hurts. It's uncomfortable. But if you can get past that mentally, a lot of times you can kind of make up the benefit. Might even be better for you. So we've been putting in just drastic amount of work. Again, no swimming. That came out a month ago. No swimming. Even though I bought a swimsuit for it, was going to look great in the swimsuit. Um, that's half joking, half real. I am by the time we get there next week, uh, I'm gonna look probably not the best I ever have, but in a way, I will because I've never been 200 pounds and this body fat percentage. I've been below this body fat percentage, but at like 190 or 185. I just didn't have the same amount of muscle on me. The size, I am all of 200 2-ish pounds right now, and I would guess we're somewhere around 13%, which when you're working out looks and even relative to what people really think 13% is, like, it looks pretty dicey. Um, but even more importantly, what I'm capable of right now is absurd. Told my wife yesterday, if I'm not the fittest I've ever been, I'm damn close, and that might just be strictly speaking towards my, like, aerobic ability. I would guess that my gymnastics are better than they've ever been in volumes that I've never been able to do, and I am as strong as I have ever been. This past Saturday, we had a huge team training session. It was awesome. Um, had 3 teams of 3 there to kind of work out and go against each other and have fun. We started with a lift, and my portion of the lift was to find a 1 rep max power clean and jerk. And my 1 rep max power clean, I think is it's either I might have hit 335 in the garage like a couple months ago. I want to say I did. If I did, it's the only time I've ever done it. That includes college. I never power cleaned 335 on the bar in college. Um, and then my 1 rep max jerk is 325. I put both of those together, power clean and jerked 325 with relative ease, and then just barely missed pressing out on 335. So, hitting all-time PRs at 30 years old in lifts that I've been doing for 12 years, like pretty intensely. My back squat, my deadlift, my front squat are all at all-time highs. Um, my bench is not an all-time high, and that's okay because you don't really bench a whole lot, and I still bench way better than relative to the CrossFit field than most people. Um, and yeah, and then obviously at percentage, which is the most important in CrossFit, uh, I can do a lot of things right now. And that mix of looking freaky and performing freaky is really one of the ultimate goals of this whole pursuit. Like, I'm not going to even front. There is a little bit of superficial, like, I'd like to look and perform great because it makes me feel good and it's fun. The pursuit is fun. If you don't love the pursuit, then you're not going to be able to do it for very long. So yes, there is the background of I just love the training, but the result doesn't suck. Losing that weight, I've been on a little mission to lose about a pound to 2 pounds over the last week, over the last 3 weeks, and I will continue that probably for another month. Just trying to lose about a pound a week. I'd like to end up somewhere around like 197, 198. And I know that sounds really specific, but based on all of the competitions that I've done, like a 17th yawn of this podcast. What a horrible podcast. All the competitions that I've done, all the body weights that I've been at, all the body fats or body comps that I've been at, I have found that right around this more generally 195 to 205 range, like if you were going to 10-pound window it, but if you were going to 5-pound window it, it would be right around like 197, 198 to 202. That is where I can both, for my genetics, my body, the way I like to eat, the way I like to train, that is my sweet spot for training and performing the best and also looking the best. Having the highest average of um, those two goals. If I get a little bit heavier, I can train better. And a lot of the metrics that I can measure in the gym will go up. I can do slightly more volume every little, pound that I add because I've got more beef, more stored energy in my body to go through longer, heavier training sessions. I could lift a little bit more weight. Mass moves mass. The power output on the rower or the bike or some of those machines I was talking about, yes, that all will go up. I'll lose a little bit of it, the pure cardio ability to run or to do burpees or anything body weight related, gymnastics, handstand push-ups, all of that gets a little bit harder if you're heavier. So the performance might go up a little bit, but the aesthetic goes down because at some point for my genetics, natural, um, it's not all muscle that gets added to the body. So then a little bit of body fat comes with that. And that's part of it. If I go below that range, now I start to look pretty freaky deaky. I can get absolutely diced up. And I've been there before. I probably hung out there more in the last 7 or 8 years than I have the other spot around the 190 range. I've even been down to as low as 180 after the marathon I ran in 2021. Problem with that is now I have such little fat on my body and reduced muscle mass that relative to what I'm capable of performance wise, I'm not even close. I can't hit the strength numbers. I don't have the same power output. I don't have the same gas tank on longer workouts. I look insane, sure, but the performance suffers. So the best sweet spot of both of those measures, performance and aesthetic, for me, right around 198 CrossFit wise, 198 to 202. So we are trying to get down into that range. We're at the very top of that range right now. If we lose 1 pound a week over the next 3 weeks, we'll get there. And I'll be feeling great. That will take me through next weekend, Wadapalooza. 2 weekends after that is Charleston. I'll be previewing both of those and reviewing both of those. That'll essentially be the next 4 podcasts, is talking about the 2 biggest CrossFit competitions I've ever done. And while I'm doing all of that, kind of prepping, deloading, doing the competitions, returning home, traveling, I've also started, amongst all the other training that I do, I've restarted the 2K row program that I did last year. Ill-advised? Maybe. But last year was, in a lot of ways, the best I've ever felt, the most fit I've ever felt to start the CrossFit season, the CrossFit Open in the quarterfinals. In large part of that, I think it was because I went hard AF on a rowing interval program 3 times a week for 8 weeks leading up to that. The rower elicits great fitness, and it's just one of the best ways that you can kind of monostructurally advance how fit you are. It's a full body workout, legs, lungs, arms, core, back. I mean, it does it all, and you can do some serious damage on there. We've restarted that, and the first week has gone well. The 2K test in for your baseline, and then the first 2 workouts, which have been 4x4, 2 minutes rest, and 6x2, 1 minute rest. I have set all faster marks, faster averages in the first week with those 3 workouts than I did last year. So it's a good place to start. Can we continually improve that? It's essentially how this program works. You just try and go a little bit faster every time you come back around. We'll see. I don't think it'll be any worse than last year. So that's good. And that's where we're at. We're basically, we're a week out from heading to Miami. We're very excited. It's the big stage. Hopefully we get some cool videos, some cool pictures of it. And then again, 2 weeks after that, we're going to try and do really well in that competition too. We also were the last, me and my partner for that one were uh, the last team that made that division. So we are coming in at the bottom of both competitions in our division. The goal is to get as high as we can and outperform the qualifier position. So we talked about the 2K row program that we started. We talked about the upcoming competitions. What else do we have? I'm getting the itch for disc golf. I continually watch the disc golf content that I like on YouTube. We were given round updates last year. I'm getting the itch, and I know that 2 or 3 months from now, it'll be nice enough to be consistently playing if I want to again in Iowa. And so that's fun. Christmas came around and it was really too cold to play, but I have about 4 or 5 new discs in my bag that I just haven't even gotten to throw yet. So they're just sitting there in my car. Every time I get in there, I'm like, oh, I could just go rip these. If anybody plays, you understand. And then Let's see, anything else I wanted to mention? I would say to wrap up the training and the CrossFit stuff, the biggest thing I've learned recently is that it's just one of those things you hear it, but you don't really understand it until it's you. As you get older, you get wiser, and with that, inside of exercise and fitness for me has come an understanding of when to listen to my body more, and understanding that stopping something or not doing something that was programmed and coming back to it or modifying something is always the answer. And you should never push through something that you feel is tight. Or yesterday, specifically, this is why it's on my mind. I had about 80 chest to bar pull-ups to do, and in a piece that was going to take me 10 or 15 minutes. And on the first set of pull-ups, I felt my bicep kind of clicky, kind of tight, maybe just the very beginning of what would be like a strain. And I hopped down and I was like, well, nope, we're not doing that. And it's in part because I have these two competitions within the next, 30-day period that I have paid a lot of money for to enter and travel to. Um, so I don't want to waste that. But also just long-term health. Everybody has health that they would like to maintain. And overdoing yourself in the gym is not the answer, ruining that and setting yourself back 3, 6 months, a year. So that's my takeaway for uh, this podcast, because the training volume's super high right now. I am pushing my body to the limit. Um, today is a low day, and we're going to hit about 2 hours worth of exercise. On the high days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right now we're doing about 3 hours. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, we're doing about 2 hours. Really, Sunday is my only true, like, I guess what you would call an off day. And even then, I'm doing these rowing workouts on there. So you're getting 30 to 40 minutes of rowing on my off day. You have to listen to your body when you're pushing it to the absolute max. And that's about it. I had one more thing to talk about. I was gonna go into it a little bit more. Nobody really cares, but I'll just mention it quickly before we end the show. Um, a really cool thing happened last week. My father-in-law retired. He was up in the corporate, higher standing of a company that isn't a huge company, but they employ a lot of people. They have a lot of locations, and he was up there. He was top 10 or 15 people in the entire company, top 20. Worked there for 30 years, 25, 30 years. And uh, they had his retirement party at the corporate office. And it was just cool to see, as someone who doesn't work in an office with any coworkers. Um, Currently, as of right now, I will not have anything like a retirement party that's put on by the company, set up for me. It was cool to go and see how he was respected in that company. We always hear about his job, and I've known what he does and met a couple of his coworkers, but to go and actually be at the office and see a lot of the people that he interacted with for the last 2 decades, 3 decades, the presentation that they put together for him, hear about people speak about him, and what he meant to the company, and what he meant to them personally, was a really cool moment. Uh, that I just didn't expect it to sort of hit me like that, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." Like, to see the professional side of my father-in-law, and also just cool to then, he gets to go enjoy his life now. He's got obviously a granddaughter and another little child on the way, and 60 years old. Worked hard and saved up and can now enjoy his life pretty thoroughly for the next, hopefully, 30, 20, 30 plus years. And I'm jealous, but that's really cool for them, and they deserve it. And it was cool to see that. Um, and maybe just live a little bit vicariously, because again, I'm not going to have that if I continue to just work for myself. So it was cool to see a little bit of the corporate world, I guess. I don't really want to work there, but cool to get a taste. Um, Listen to your body. That's your takeaway today. There will be plenty of updates on the Miami competition, the Charleston competition. I'm going to try and post as many pictures, videos, If there's live streaming of these events, I'll post those as well. Um, for anybody that wants to follow that, follow my Instagram. That's where they'll go, where it will happen. I'll obviously talk about and recap the competitions here. Otherwise, that's it. We'll talk to you guys next week, previewing Miami, and we'll see you then.